I'm trying to fix the comments right now. Don't worry. I see that you guys can't comment. Let me see here. Oh, there it is. Now you should be good. Sorry, guys. Okay. All right, I have unmuted myself. I'm about to unmute you guys. There we go. Hi, everyone. Hello, hello. Hi, guys. Hello, and welcome to... Oh, wait, I know someone's going to complain about the music, so let me turn the music down. And let me do this so I can hear myself. Where is... I updated my... my streaming setup, but I'm still getting used to all the buttons, so there's like a little bit of delay. But hi everyone, welcome to our spoiler conversation of House of Flame and Shadow. Ironically, these are the ladies I was just with a week ago, which is so weird to think about that it's been a full week, and we really didn't talk much about the book when we were together. So this is kind of the first time that we get to discuss it. I'm just going to lay a few ground rules. Number one, some people are asking in Discord if there's a Slido code. There isn't. So feel free to put your questions or comments in the chat on YouTube. I'm watching it, so I will be filtering them out. We are going to be having a full spoiler discussion. So when I mean full spoilers, I mean all 16, I can't believe I'm actually saying that, 16 Sarah J. Maas books. So we are going to be discussing everything from Throne of Glass, ACOTAR, and all of the Crescent City books. We are going to be having a very candid conversation, but I should just go ahead and say right off the bat that we are probably a more positive group than what you've seen so far on the internet. So I want to go ahead and set the ground rules now that this is definitely going to be probably not the conversation y'all have been seeing. I don't know how many of you guys have been seeing on TikTok, but the feedback has been Luke-ish warm. So I think this is going to be a little bit more of a positive chat, just so everyone's aware. Also, feel free, if it's not a question about your review or anything, if you have a question about the book, feel free to ask someone in the chat or ask the question, and I'll call it out. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and start it off. For anyone wondering, I guess we can go ahead and start off and say how this worked in the house, or I think we should talk a little bit about the house before we get into the book, because I know there was a lot of question. I got a lot of questions about the house and how we did this and what went down. So I won't hog too much of the mic, but I'll explain a little bit of what happened on my end, and then I'll let everyone else kind of filter in. So I think when we had all finished HOSAB, which was 2 years ago now, we all agreed because of that resand ending. I'm turning the music off. We all agreed because of that resand ending that we all wanted to read the next book together, because we felt there was a lot of... We felt this was an important one for us to all to get together. So there was a lot of planning that went behind the scenes. Avery and I specifically, we spent, I want to say, at least a month, and I don't think I'm exaggerating, looking at houses, picking...
So that was like 6 months.
It was 6 months, but there was 1 month of like intensive, very intensive, searching and finding the right house. And, because this is so weird how this worked out. We originally wanted to be in the mountains for this. And so we were looking in a bunch of different places across the United States. And then because of my situation, I asked if everyone was comfortable doing Austin. Everyone thankfully said yes, which really worked out in my favor in the end, because of everything that went down in my life leading up to the release. And so we found this house that was about 40 minutes down the road from me in Austin, Texas, which I am going to be sharing the link to the house in Discord. So if anyone wants to rent it, I highly recommend it, because I think none of us have a complaint about that house.
Especially that bathtub.
Oh, the house was stunning. It was gorgeous. It can sleep 11 people, which is insane. So we half filled that house.
Yeah, we had our own spaces each, which was nice.
Yeah, so we all took our own bedrooms. The living room, this was a thing, and I think the girls thought I was semi-crazy because they were sick of hearing me say this, but like I was like, comfy couches. We need comfy couches. Those couches were unbelievably comfortable.
They were.
Like I could have slept on all of those couches. So like we just had a really good time. We did a lot of really fun things that I'm sure you'll see over the course of social media. I know I will be posting more about the house and everything over the next week or so. So you'll be seeing more stuff from me. But we all agreed it was a great trip and we would do it again. Yeah. Oh, and then the only other thing I wanted to add was how we did the book. So basically, like, people could go up and read by themselves, but for the most part, like, everyone kind of read together. Everyone had their own reading schedule. I'll say what mine was, and then I'll officially open the floor. But like, I get distracted very easily. So in the mornings I read with everyone, and then towards the evenings I went upstairs and like had some quiet time, but everyone kind of did their own thing, which was really cute. So yeah, go ahead. What did everyone else think of the house and the situation and how it all went down?
I loved the house. It was gorgeous and comfortable and spacious, and we were able to get away when we needed to get away, come together when we wanted to come together.
Yeah.
We were able to have like the birthday dinner night, which was super fun, and you went live for, so like that was all fun. My reading schedule, I think everybody kind of sort of knows. I at the end of the live, I grabbed the physical copy as soon as it hit midnight Eastern, and I went upstairs. Read 32 chapters in one night. I was done by 4 a.m. I was also the first person up the next day, and I was told that I had to slow down. So I was boycotted by everybody else in the house from reading for like 3 hours. Yeah.
We did take a break at one point on Tuesday morning to go see the books live, which just sounds so silly, but we had so much fun just like running around. We went to Barnes & Noble, Target, and then we didn't go to Walmart, but we could have, but we just hit those two, and it was a blast. So Avery was required to come because she had to take a break.
I was required to take a break.
And then the best part,
the guy at Target who was very helpful. He was very sweet, even though he gave me the wrong book.
He gave very sweet. We have to. So two really funny things happened while we were out. One was when we went to Target, the book wasn't out, and the guy was like, "Are you here for the Crescent book?" And we're like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay, you can pick out the nicest one in the box." Like he really understood the assignment. So like.
So sweet.
High praise. The second thing is, and we can say this because at the time none of us were there, but
except for me,
except for Avery, when we got to Barnes & Noble, first off, I was like the person at the front that every time a husband or a lost soul walked in, I was like, no, not that one, the bonus chapter one. Here you go. Have a good day. Like that's what I was doing. Caitlin was sobbing in the corner because Siggy was dying. And we didn't know this at the time, but like Caitlin's she's a big wolf girl, and like she's checking out. You bought the Bridget Kemmer book, and she's like sobbing.
You literally turned to me and you were like, "This isn't real, right?" And I was like, "Oh no, that's real."
I was like, please tell me this isn't happening. Like, there's gotta be. I kept asking, where's the light at the end of the tunnel? Like, I was like, we're not doing this again. Why are we so mean to this like line of wolves? I just was devastated.
Yeah. Sorry,
I
turned everyone up. By the way, sorry, I didn't realize it was live.
But yeah. So and then basically for me, we got back to the house and I kept reading until I was done reading, and Caitlin was like consistently 10 chapters behind me. And I kept taking like random breaks and stuff. But she, at one point I do remember turning to you and going, "There's light."
Yeah. Which is funny because Caitlin was so transparent before we left for the house. And she was like, "I will be the last one to finish." And she was not the last
she was
one.
Not.
So that was really funny.
Third, I think I was third.
Yeah. So how was everyone else's reading experience? We all kind of did our own thing, but for the most part, we tried to read together.
I felt like it was nice. I had to work a bit, so I was like kind of slow to start it. And then I feel like the next day, that's when I really started getting into it. And then I was like zooming. But and the pacing, I mean, not to get into all that, but I felt like the pacing of this book was so well done because it just never let up. Like it was just constant. You never wanted to put it down.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I would agree. I have a really funny video I haven't uploaded yet. I'm debating on when to upload it. She's not here. Katie's coming, by the way. I saw her text. She's coming.
Oh, great.
But we have I have this hysterical video that I need to upload, but figure out a way to. First off, when you see it, I want to make it very clear that like the video is done in all love. Like there's no trolling, there's no bullying. Because I know some people are gonna watch this and think that's what went down, and that is not what happened at all. So like I just want to clarify. Katie was reading it slower because she, like Ashley, had to work. And when she got to the Bran part, I was like, Bran. Her mom is a deer. And we have a 4-minute video of Katie not piecing it together. And it's the funniest thing.
Also important to know is that on Sunday night, you did like a full-on, Sarah did like a full-on family tree PowerPoint. Like we went through the masterclass, like we got our own little private session.
Yeah.
And so we went through this like very in depth.
Yeah. So before any of you think I'm a narcissist, that's not what happened. So the girls at all individually, we wanted to do a recap before we got the book.
Yeah.
And a lot of you guys had asked me to present the masterclass. So I didn't just come in and was like, oh, we're going to do the masterclass.
That's not what I meant. I
know.
We asked for it. It was awesome to be able to like go in depth on all that because I had forgotten so much and I didn't do my rereads. So it was like really nice to have.
And it was
nice to like relax and like just like absorb that like grit. Like I did like a reread, but like just like getting it in the pieces, pairing it the way that it needed to be.
Yeah.
Like just so fun. So
well, and they got a real unfiltered version of the masterclass, one that would never go online. But but it was funny because I knew about the brand thing before. Let me clarify. I didn't know that Lydia had kids. I knew that she was tied to Brandon. And so when we got to the slide of the family tree, I really like drove it home how this was going to work because it was a theory of mine before getting the book. So I like really wanted to like drive this point home. So I'm really glad it stuck. I think the best slide though was the Henry Cavill slide. That was a fan favorite of the house.
That's a good one. Yeah.
The Henry Cavill's. Yeah. But yeah, we did the masterclass and then we did the midnight party, the midnight party was a lot of fun.
That was very fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think we all really enjoyed ourselves. And then we did, and then we all just went off and read.
Yeah.
And we all
Let's be real though, like Cammie was the best part of the
oh my God, hands down. Yeah. By the way, I didn't know I didn't know you were using a Danny Phantom sound. I almost started crying. I was laughing so hard last night when I saw it. I was like, stop it right now.
I asked Avery because I'm like trying to edit like actual like videos, so I was asking Avery for recommendations and also like searching for like something as a teaser for the story, and I saw Danny Phantom and I was like,
so good.
Sorry, Avery.
I was not even offended a lot, like even a bit. That was hilarious.
It was so good. Yeah, and so basically we just kind of relaxed at the house. We read. We did like a few outings. So the girls that finished first, we went to the Vintage Bookstore and Wine in Austin, which is a fan favorite of mine. It's definitely a realm favorite. For anyone who's in Austin, I'm gonna kick your ass in 2 weeks at Throne of Glass Trivia. So I want to make that known. So prepare yourself. But we had a lot of fun there. We just kind of walked around. We went to a few bookstores, and then the next day we went to more bookstores together, and it was just a fun trip.
Well, we got to go to First Light.
Oh yeah,
First Light.
That was so
I don't know if you
cute.
can see it, but it's the little coaster.
So there's a new bookstore in Austin called First Light Books, and I sent them. I have to shout out my friend Emily. She's the one who told me. Emily was like, "We have to go," and I was like, "I have to take my friends too." Obviously, the reference to First Light is not lost on any of us. And so we went, which by the way, this bookstore is the opposite of what you would think a fantasy bookstore is. It's like the cool indie, gonna grab some coffee. There's lots of coffee shop type books. It's a cool bookstore. They were so kind and so understanding of us. It was the best. So big shout out to them.
They were a little almost like awestruck. They're like, who are you guys?
Yes. 7 girls in matching sweatshirts coming in, immediately going to the fantasy, which by the way, their shelf is like probably the combination of these 2 bookshelves right here of fantasy. Like that was it. It was hilarious.
I'm sure we were being a little annoying too. I had phones out and was like taking content of all of us. I was like, quick, look like you're looking at the books.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were so nice about it.
There was definitely a girl because we had like they have like a cool outdoor seating area too, for like the cafe and stuff. And so of course we had to take a picture out front.
Yeah.
And there was definitely a couple people I saw filming us. And I'm like, oh no,
really?
are we gonna be on?
Oh no.
It's fine.
Influencers in the wild.
It's fine. We made someone laugh, so that's all that matters.
Yeah. So but yeah, we had a lot of fun. And then I guess we'll get into the book. Anything else you want to add before we get into the book?
I'll just say that I know like me and Cammie were reading at like a similar speed, which was kind of nice. But what I really loved is that the weather was so nice. Like I actually was like reading out by the pool, and I know some of us read out on like the patio in the morning. So it was nice that we had like outdoor space too, especially like those of us who live in cold winter areas.
Yeah.
So
I will say before we get into HOFAS, because I don't know if I'll have time to save for this afterwards, I really wish there was a camera. Oh, bran flakes! Hi, love.
Here.
Hi, love. I was gonna say. Oh, I think she's just setting everything up. I wish this is one of those, I swear on Rowan's life, this actually happened, was after I had finished the book, I had gotten up extremely early. I was getting up early anyways, every day. And I got up stupid early the next day. And the girls had which it's still in the car actually in a package because I don't want to bring it into this house without knowing where it's going to go, is they annotated a copy of Queen of Shadows for me, which is a long story. But I was like, I'm going to sit out here with some coffee and I'm going to read this book and it's going to make me so happy. And I flipped open the first page. I immediately started crying because I could see all their writings. And like, I look up and 4 deer just run in front of me. And I was like, okay, Aylin just told me it's going to be okay. Like, I was like full on sobbing for like, and I filmed a TikTok like, because I was like, oh my God, no one's going to believe I'm crying. Like, I have to clarify this, but it was super magical. And to Kate's point, like the house, the weather was great. We just had so much fun. So, but yeah, we were talking about your bran flakes earlier.
Yeah, you need
Katie.
to change your name on your Zoom.
On Zoom?
Yeah.
Yeah, just bran flakes.
Oh, well, right now it says my boyfriend's name.
I see that.
Okay, how do I change it to bran flakes? I think he will actually enjoy that when he gets onto a work meeting on Monday and it says bran flakes instead of his name.
Yeah.
I think that's even better.
I think it is too.
I think it's the triple dot in the upper corner if you want to change it. There's like
I hope he doesn't find out that it says bran flakes.
I mean, bran flakes is harmless at this point.
Yeah.
It's fine. Well, anything else you want to add about the house or anything before we jump into the book?
I have a quick comment. So I know we talked about the comfy couches, but like honestly, the couch, like the outdoor couches were like,
so nice.
Like Avery and I like lived, and Campy too. Like we did not leave. Like I spent 12 hours sitting on that couch.
Easily.
And I have back issues and I was fine.
Right.
It's I gotta praise the outdoor seating because that was magical.
And I was grateful for it too, because usually I'm a bed reader, and honestly the beds were so comfortable that anytime it was like, I did not stay up as late as I usually do reading because the beds were so comfortable I fell asleep. So I was blessed by that patio.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
I think something also that was funny about the patio was Cammie and Kate were reading at a similar speed, and me and Sarah and Caitlin were very, very far ahead in the book. And they have some very fun footage of us in the wild in our little zookeeper cages while we're screaming about the end of the book.
It's like we couldn't like hear what you guys were saying, and I'm like filming back and forth, and Avery's like pacing. And I'm like, I'm gonna put some like manly voiceover. It's gonna be like the reader in her natural habitat. Like, so that video is coming.
It's funny. So I should say this before, like, well, I mean, we'll get into what we thought of the book, but the best part was the word thing, because Avery read it, and then I was like sitting there, and my mods, by the way, because they like demanded certain chapters to watch me read, so they wouldn't tell me what chapter, but they were like, "There's something towards the end we want to watch you," and they're perked up, and as I'm reading the Under King's big passage, and he says the word, I went, "Oh my God!" and I like threw the book and like started pacing, and Avery and I just. This is the footage Kate has. And I'm just like, I can't, what does this even mean? Like, we're full on panicking. And Caitlin is like, I'm almost there. And then we realized she'd already read it. And so we were like, go back. We're like, go back.
Well, and then the best part about that particular part of the book is it became a joke because when everybody was trying to get to that point, we were like, are you at the bird? The bird.
Is that what you meant?
Yes.
I didn't know that either. I had no idea what you guys were talking about when you kept saying that.
Yeah.
Erd is the word, and then the erd is the word.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense now. In retrospect.
Yeah.
God.
And
that
then
was such a great moment.
And then Avery made me die laughing. When we were freaking out, we were looking at each other. We both had this realization dawn on us that our podcast name is oddly like perfect. And we were like, okay, well, we're not changing that. And just so everyone is aware, it was not meant to be Sarah J. Maas themed at all. We specifically chose Word from the Realm because Word is actually a thing in mythology. And so we wanted to keep it in this mythology-based thing. Obviously, it's a nod to Sarah, but it wasn't just tied to her. And now we're like, oh, that's oddly specific. So anyways, okay, there's a lot of questions coming in about the book. I'm not ignoring them. I want to make that known. But I want to talk about the book. I will save my opinion for last because I do think out of this group I'm the most negative, but I would love to hear what everyone's thoughts were about HOFAS overall. We can start with, on my screen I have Ashley, Avery, Cammie, Kate, Caitlin, Bran Flakes.
And flakes.
Bland flakes.
Bran Flakes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I could start. Yeah, I had a great time reading it. I really enjoyed it. I would say overall, like, it wasn't perfect for me. It wasn't a perfect 5 stars, but I still had a great time. I loved being back with these characters. I loved that we got to see some of the inner circle. I wish that we would have gotten maybe something besides the cave. Those are like kind of the quick thoughts. I felt like the pacing, like I said before, I thought was amazing. Like, I think the constant POV changes was jarring, like, but on purpose. Like, I think that was very intentional by Sarah. So I didn't mind it as much. I know it bothered like a lot of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt like it just kept everything moving at like warp speed. And yeah, I enjoyed the reveals and nods that we did get. I was obviously super disappointed that we didn't, end up in Terrasen like we thought was maybe going to happen. But I think overall I was pretty happy with it, but there's definitely some things I wish would have happened differently.
Yeah. Avery?
I think I'm very similar in viewpoint to Ashley. I gave it a 5-star on Goodreads, but I always round up from my half stars, so I really gave it a 4.5. There were some plot holy things. The magic bean I would like an explanation on because I have questions.
Does anyone here liked the magic bean?
No.
Okay.
I think I can get behind the magic bean if there's a decent explanation for it, but right now I'm not a huge fan of the magic bean.
Yeah.
I like all the jokes that I can now make about magic beans.
I know.
Yes. I like that. I like all the memes that have come from the bean. I don't like that the bean existed.
Yeah. I mean, because the bean obviously solves a lot of issues from ACOTAR. So you're like, okay, well, how long has this existed for? So those are some questions I have. As far as the Throne of Glass nods, I really appreciated what we did get. And I think it is doing a whole lot of setting up for us stepping back into that world.
The Throne of Glass trilogy. Yep, keep going.
Correct. So even though we didn't get to see Terrasen in this, I think that, like, I mean, there's a video of me scream crying over Lydia and her fireball. So, like I had those nods in those moments, which was enough for me at this point. I did go back and watch our live, and I did guess we were in Prithian for 30%, and I am very proud of myself for that. That is the only other thing I will say. But yeah, it was an overall fun read for me. I will reread it probably several times.
Yeah. Cammie, anything from you?
Yeah, I think I agree. Was it perfect? No. Is Crescent City my favorite series? No. But I did have a really good time. There were a lot of really fun nods. I'm sure we'll share it at some point, but when the few of us read that first chapter together, I was crying first chapter. Like, just like seeing all those characters again was so fun.
Yeah.
I had a good time. And so I tend to be more lenient on my reviews when just like generally I had a good time. But I did also have a problem with the magic bean and the Star Wars hologram.
Yes.
Oh, I've been calling it the Horizon.
Few of those things.
I've been calling it the Horizon Zero Dawn hologram, but yes.
I appreciate the hologram for the information it gave me and not for the presentation.
I just wanted an explanation for those things. And I think because, I'm sure we'll talk more about this, but because so much had to happen in this book for it to end a trilogy and end a story for Hunt and Bryce, I think that there like had to be things that were glanced over and there had to be things that felt rushed for this to like fully wrap a bow on everything. Yeah.
Caitlin? And then I'll go to Kate.
So I am definitely someone who goes based off of feels. So I definitely rated it a 5-star. I had so much fun. Was it perfect? I think the closest thing to a perfect book that I've read is Kingdom of Ash.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And like I love Mist and Fury, but that's like, it's not perfect. Like it's number 1 for me, but it's not perfect. So like, I'm like weird in that sense. And this made me, especially with the POV changes, it made me feel like Kingdom of Ash, but it wasn't Kingdom of Ash. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I had a lot of fun. I definitely rated it 5 stars, but that's not to like I still see like all the issues. I'm kind of just like choosing to be like, well, I had enough fun that it just doesn't matter to me. I would say the 2 things that bothered me, yes, was definitely one was the magic bean. And then 2, I couldn't get over the word intergalactic, blah, blah, blah. That word was driving me bonkers. I was like, I don't want to see this word anymore. Can we pick a different word? Like, I understand what we're trying to do here, but like,
right.
I felt like I wouldn't have noticed it except for when you told me about it, and then I started noticing it every time she wrote it, and I was like, oh, she is actually using this word a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had fun. I loved it. I would say that Crescent City is my 3rd favorite out of like the 3 series. Like, but like I really enjoy it. Like I actually feel like I relate a lot with Bryce.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't say that it's 3rd in a bad way because they're all good. Like
right.
I've had fun with everything. It's just there's more books in all the other series and I've just built more relationship with those characters, but that's not to say that Crescent City could overthrow one or the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right, Kate, what do you got?
Well, I feel like I'm going to be more harsh than you guys. I think right now I have it marked as a 4 on Goodreads, but I'm deciding between a 3.5 and a 3.75, which could potentially make it a 3 on Goodreads. There were just too many like random magical things that didn't really make sense, like the bean and the mists and stuff. And just so many plot holes. Like Mordok would have smelled the mating bond between Rude and Lydia. Like he literally smelled both of them. The calm crystal. There was just a lot of things like that. And like Theion and Ethan, I hate when characters are just stupid for no reason. That drove me absolutely insane. But that being said, as a Nesta girly, when they were with Nesta and Bryce like viewed her as a warrior, it was like so like healing. I was just like, oh my God, my whole heart, and like listing out all the people she loved to get the mask off. That was just so amazing. And Lydia and Rune totally carried the first half for me. I just love them so much. I'm bummed they're not getting their own book, but yeah. So it's a mix. I think I will say with the other Crescent City books, when I've reread them, they've gone up in rating every single time. So I would say the first one I literally rated 3.5. And then I think I've read it 4 times now, and now it's at a 4.5. So maybe as like the next books come out and potentially some of those holes get filled, it might go up. And I did enjoy myself. So
yeah. Katie, you got anything?
My name's Brain Flakes. Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
It's bland. It's bland.
It's bland flakes.
Oh, anyway. It's not the little bitch boy. The little.
Oh, you know.
That'll make sense when you see the video.
A lot of like very mid romantasy of just like things that people like overhype on Book Talk, and then I pick it up and I'm like, that was not very good, or like stuff that was like nominated on Goodreads for romantasy of the year, and I'm like, how did this even get nominated? And so I will say, going back to STM's writing to me felt like going home. Yes. Like even if I have criticisms of the book as a whole, like her writing is still on a whole other level to me than almost everything else I read. And And so it's really hard for me to be like, yeah, did the book have problems? Sure. Were there plot holes? Absolutely. Were there issues? Yeah, of course. But like, if comparatively, like if I'm comparing it to SJM's other work, I think I have different critiques than if I'm comparing it to like other romantasy books I've been reading, because it's still in a league of its own at the end of the day for me. And so like, yeah, I guess that's just generally how I felt about it. And I did give it 5 stars on Goodreads, but I'm pretty like lenient with stuff like that. I also feel very much like, did I enjoy reading it? Did I have fun? Like, you know, did I connect with the characters? Did I feel like this was like well thought out generally, and the plots were good and it wasn't overly predictable? And like all of those things I think were true. Like there were still plot holes, but like you could still tell she put a ton of thought into like how to do the crossover and all of those things. And so, yeah, like I could tell the effort was being put in and all of that.
Yeah. Okay, well, I actually might not be as negative as everyone else, so I'm kind of surprised. So, I mean, for me, okay, I need to set the stage before I get into this, because I think that's important, which is obviously there was a lot of hype around this book. There was definitely a lot of expectations that I think if I speak for the group, I think Avery and I are like the theorists, like we're the ones that deep dive. And so we are probably a little more hyper aware than everyone else is in regards to how overhyped this book was on the theory side of things. And I think Avery and I in general did a very good job of leveling our own expectations, knowing that some of these theories were not ever, one, they were not going to get solved, or two, these are like Sarah's done writing books level theories. Like these were not going to happen in this book. And so I think in general, the blowout, which I don't even want to say is like overall, because I am seeing some positive reviews, but the more negative ones are obviously getting the traction. And I think those negative ones have to do with the fact that they were either spiraling too hard and they overshot, or B, they were watching those spirals and they overshot. Okay. The issues I have with the book, which let me quickly say, and I've said this to everyone in the group and in general, I think over time I will like this book more. I think initially I really struggled with it because I was pretty good at leveling in my expectations before the book was in my hand. And then I won't go into details, but you saw my message in Discord, which is that once the book was in my hand, I felt like I was receiving a lot of DMs, a lot of messages, which indicated to me that Aelin was coming, to the point that it was so overly attentive that I didn't know how to respond to it. So future Sarah problem is I will be completely offline the minute the book is leaked or whatever, because I don't want any of that, because that really did taint my experience, which has nothing to do with the physical book. Now that we've had a week to sit on it, and I haven't reread it, and I should be completely transparent and say that I was so upset that Aelin wasn't appearing because I was so gaslit in the last day of reading it that I read the last 10 chapters in 5 minutes. So I want to be very transparent and say that I was just upset. And I think also it wasn't just that Aelin wasn't there. I was upset that Aelin wasn't there, that this book was ending, that I had personally spent 2.5 years, 3 years in this world overdoing everything, and it was all crashing in on me. So there was a lot of things going in my brain, and it wasn't just having to do with Aelin. It was literally all of this. Someone said this and they're totally right, which is, it was almost like I was preparing for a wedding, and those last 10 chapters were like the vows, and I like blacked out. And then now that the wedding was over, I didn't know what to do with myself. So that was just my overall thing. I will say though, as time has passed, I have already grown to appreciate this book more and what it is and what it delivered. And at the end of the day, if we take away the TMs and the messages I got regarding making me think Aelin was showing up, this book is exactly what I wanted, which is it did give the hints on Throne of Glass. I wish there was more, but it did give the hints. And it did do a good job of wrapping up Bryce and Hunt for me personally. The issues I have, which we will probably go into a little more, is obviously the elephant in the room is that Sarah said after HOSAP came out that there was a draft already done and that Prythian was 50% in the book. Then over a year and a half had passed, and she's in another interview and she says she has rewritten the entire book in 5 weeks. Obviously, a lot of us had deduced that 50% Prythian had shifted, because even before we got the book, I didn't think that was what had happened. And I wondered even at the time, and now reading this book, what the difference was between those two drafts, because there are parts of the book that feel like it was a cut and paste, but not a fully perfect cut and paste. And so my own, I mean, as someone who's starting to work with authors and see their writing styles and all of this, my own curiosity now is what happened between the two drafts, because there are inconsistencies. There are things that I have noticed even on our own Theory Spiral channel, people are running in circles with, and I genuinely think it is an error or a mistake and not something to spiral over. So I think that is a bit of a bummer for me, but I don't blame Sarah and I don't blame the story for that. And I think at face value, I have to get over that and those expectations, because this goes back to what Katie said in regards to Sarah's on a different level for me. I rate her books a little more critically than I do anyone else because she's on that level. And so I knew, just like any author, you know, when you get to a certain point, they're on a huge peak right now. She was going to have to go down from the peak. I just didn't expect that to be HOFAS. And so I think I have a lot of mixed bag of emotions. That being said, as I probably sound very negative, I did really like the book. I did really love a lot of the dialogue choices. I am probably in the minority in saying that I loved the Celine monologue that happened with I'm calling it the Horizon Zero Dawn. And for anyone who doesn't understand that reference, I'm so sorry, but that is an actual one-to-one accurate representation of what happened. And a few other things. So it's fine. I think the book was good. I think what this book did do, though, which I think some people are missing, is this did set up for a multiverse. And this did set up for a potential Throne of Glass series to come back, and for more to come back in ACOTAR, and for these characters to come back in other ways. So I'm very optimistic. I'm still very excited to read her books. This just wasn't the perfect book for me, and that's okay. So that's what I would say. I did pretty good. I wasn't that negative.
I think you're right about the multiverse thing for sure. It's like, I think people thought that the last book was setting up more for the multiverse. And then when it wasn't full multiverse in this book, that was disappointing for people, which I totally understand. But like this really was kind of just like a prologue of the multiverse. Yeah. And this was this was wrapping up Hunt and Bryce's story while being a prologue for the actual multiverse. Yeah. So I think it's going to get really interesting from this point forward. But I think that like there was just different expectations around it. I
think what's also to your point that people need to remember, because a lot of us, and you brought this up earlier, I mean, how many of us read indie authors or we all do. We all read indie self-published books, and we are used to their release schedule. I mean, some of those authors bust out a book every 3 to 5 months. Like, if we're lucky, some of them do 6 months to a year, but like, we never have to wait long for another book. We did the math in the realm. If I did my math correctly, all of those books she's contracted for, I will be over 40 years old. So it's just, which is like, everyone's like, oh God. So I think that's another thing to keep in mind is like, we have to be in this for the long game. This isn't going to be like a quick fix. And I know for a lot of us, like we started reading SJM because of the pandemic. So, I mean, if you look at the span of how long that is, that's only been 4 years at this point. We have to be in this for the long haul. We can't just expect this to be it and then dip. I mean, you can dip, but like, this isn't the end. So if you want a quick fix, you're going to go read Lady of Darkness by Melissa Rorick. But if you don't want a quick fix, then you have to stick it out.
At least SJM is not George R.R. Martin. I mean, it could be worse. It could be worse for us.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, if you started reading in the pandemic, it's been 4 years since that started-ish. Not quite 4 years. And we've gotten 3 books. So that's not a terrible release schedule for a traditionally published author.
No, it's not. It's not. And I think the other thing too is, you know, she's looking at a 16-month release. And I know that is, I mean, double, if not triple the length that we wait for an indie or self-published book. And there are multiple reasons why it's like that. However, I would say if I'm waiting 16 months for a book, I would prefer that we check a sentence that says Amryn remembers this, but then in Silver Flames it said Amryn remembered that. Those are the little things that I feel I can be more critical on because we are waiting 16 months. Doesn't mean I didn't dislike the book. It's just that would be my one critique.
And those are like things that for me as a reader, I probably wouldn't notice something like that in my first read, but I'll catch it on a reread.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, again, it is what it is. And it's, you know, I don't think that's the point. And I think that's getting this kind of also goes back to the fact that like, I think Avery would, I mean, you could disagree with me, but I think we both feel like sometimes people theory spiral too hard and they miss. I mean, I feel like both of us would say it was wild to me that like the book came out and I saw people say, well, my theory was better than what was on the book. I'm sorry. Like I actually, I saw that quite a few times and like, y'all, that's not what this is about. Like, if you think that's why you're theory spiraling, go write yourself a book. Like, don't.
Right.
This is Sarah's world. Like, we're living in it. That's how this works.
Well, and like, sometimes I think I theory spiral too hard. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, but that feels kind of cracky, Avery. So maybe it's not. Maybe it's not that. Like, maybe let's temper our expectations a little bit.
Yeah.
You know?
I see a lot of questions about Ethan and Siggy. We'll get into them. But before we do, I want to address another elephant in the room, which is I saw a lot of complaints about, which is, did anyone dislike the Nesta Az with Bryce's interactions? Everyone felt like they were canon. They felt like they were cool.
It made sense. Like, I don't understand the people who are like, oh, like, Bryce is being stupid. Why isn't she trusting them? Because she doesn't know them.
Yeah.
Right. There's a whole different world. Like, we know them. We trust them. She just met them. I'd be scared of them too if I didn't know who they were. Like, that just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I think Bryce, character-wise, did a little bit of reverting back to book one Bryce from the growth that we saw in HOFAS. But I also can understand that as almost a trauma response to like, I don't know where I am. I'm in this strange place. Like I'm going back to where I'm comfortable. Like I'm not going to be a bigger person here. I'm going to survive. And Bryce was in survival mode for 2 years. So it wouldn't surprise me if she reverted back slightly.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. And I also think it's like the way that she built it up for the ending when she was like, you know, Nesta was like, oh, you're kind of a good person. And Bryce is like, I feel like I could have been friends with Nesta and under different circumstances. Like that felt actually natural to me.
Yeah.
Rather than if she had landed in Prithian and like become friends with them immediately. Like as of the time she landed in Prithian, they had no vested interest that was mutual. They didn't know about the Asteri. They have no, like the Asteri are gone from that world. I think that they have moments where they feel empathetic towards Bryce for what she's dealing with, but like it's not their problem to take on. And so it's like, why would they work together? Why would they be allies? Why would they immediately be friends? Like they had no Venn diagram. So for me, it felt natural.
Yeah.
And being protective of their own land. Like, of course they're not going to like Bryce. Like, who is this person who just potentially could open a door to destruction of everything they hold dear?
She stole Truth Teller. Like, she just straight up stole it. Like, sorry, bye.
But even before she stole it, I think the thing, I saw some people, like, really get on Nesta and Az for how... or Bryce for being so distant against Nesta and Az. And I was like, I'm sorry, Nesta and Az together in the same piece of dialogue said they were going to skin Bryce alive and take the horn out of her back. That was a Micah move in Bryce's eyes. We all laughed because we're like, yeah, they would. Like they would take it to Amryn and figure it out. Like that is what would happen. But it is very, I mean, to me, it's wild when people are like, well, that's not canon. Well, sorry, it's in the book, so it's canon. But it is canon to me that the three of them would interact that way. And the other piece I want to say, as a Nesta girly, Nesta was not going to be magically fixed at the end of Silver Flames. She wasn't. And so the vulnerability, the BAM bonus chapter is my favorite because, and I know I already had people message me being like, oh, do you think that the inner circle's still mean to Nesta? No, now it's a different level of mean. Now it is, you are one of us, and if you don't get in line, we're going to literally strap you to a chair so you don't die. So I felt like everything felt so natural, and actually it was welcoming to see Nesta in some ways revert back to who she was in regards to not trusting everyone because she wouldn't be magically fixed. So that's my thing. Okay. Someone said, okay, we'll talk about the Bryce and Hunt. I see some complaints about Bryce and Hunt. Nesta and Amber made me bawl. Their love and music. That was a standout for me. Yeah. Bryce acting like that with Az and Nesta was fine. It was how she was with Hunt that was off-putting. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about Hunt. Everyone said they really loved Nesta. I get that it's her book. I get that, but when you give it 2 years for everyone to hype over it, at least peep at your readers' ideas. I'm going to be honest and say I would rather Sarah never see an idea from a reader, because at least it keeps it pure. There are authors who do give reader input, and I'm sorry, I think it taints the story. I'd rather hear what the author wants, not what the reader wants. I don't care if Sarah knows how much I love Rowan. If she decides she never wants to write Rowan again, that is because she's the author. So, okay. Someone said it's wild to me that people also forget that the inner circle as a whole is not like morally straight good. At best, they're like neutral good. This is true. They're still the Night Court. Like, they're literally feared by everyone. Like, of course there's somewhat of jerks. Like, come on. It is who it is. I thought SJM was putting Easter eggs in there, that Hunt wasn't Bryce's true mate because of the way they scuffled with each other. I did. Okay, let's talk about the Bryce and Hunt, because they're talking about that, and then we'll talk about Sigrid and Ethan. Okay, does anyone have any complaints about the relationship of Bryce and Hunt? Yes.
I do.
Okay, all right. The people who have complaints, go for it.
No, I think for me, it was a missed opportunity for their reunion. I wanted more from their reunion. Okay. I felt like she had an epic badass entrance, which was cool on the ship, which is fine. But then it's like they've been apart, and they had such a, like, the end of HOSAB was like so trauma stricken that it's like, they're ripped away from each other. They don't know how they're going to get back to each other. And then it was just kind of like so anticlimactic for me, them coming together again. And so I wanted more from that scene, but I felt like, and then, some of their squabbling I could have done without. I was kind of like, really? Like, it didn't feel like them. And I get that they are one of the most, we talked about this, like, that it's one of the most healthy SJM relationships there is. And, like, obviously there's going to be disagreements and all these things. And I didn't have a problem with that. I just felt like I wanted a little bit more from them, and instead of it kind of fading into the background a bit. Yeah.
I couldn't help but compare their reunion to the reunion we got in Agawar. And it's like, so different, and like obviously they're very different characters and everything, but just like the level of emotion and the way that both of those scenes were written, like that fell flat to me. So I do agree with you there.
Yeah, I felt like Bryce wasn't like, I get she was in a different world, but I feel like it kind of glazed over the fact that, like, Hunt had just been tortured for like weeks, or 5 days, like however long it was, whatever. But like, and he also has already, like, failed rebelling multiple times. I felt like she just was, like, blind to the pain that he has gone through in his life. And I'm glad they talked it out, but it just didn't feel like they grew very much. In general, I felt like we had so much world stuff going on that the characters didn't really develop as much as I would have liked across the board.
Yeah. I think it's... Oh, go ahead, Caitlin.
I would agree with the like, petty squabbling, like that. Just like, it felt so like young, and I was like, it just, like what Ashley said, like it just didn't fit them, and I was kind of just like, okay, like I don't really care that you guys are fighting, like there's so much other going on. Can you just be like a little bit of happiness in all of this craziness that's going on, please? Like that's all I wanted, and it just wasn't happening.
I think to expand too on like Bryce reverting back to her survival mode, like this book took place in the span of like what, 7 to 10 days. Like we weren't going to get the character growth we wanted, and she was probably in survival mode, like, I know I'm going to sacrifice myself at the end of all of this, kind of like probably was not in that correct headspace either. And as much as I wanted to see like more growth from a lot of the characters, I try to remind myself that this book happened so fast.
Yeah.
That there was very little time for the character arcs that we're used to seeing out of the Sarah J. Maas story.
I think it's funny you said that, Cami, and someone literally commented and said the same thing about character growth. So there's a delay, but I want to make it known that Cami started talking about it and then your message came in. So I just want to, that was really funny how like it came in at the same time. Yeah. What I was going to say is, like, you guys brought up, I mean, obviously I'm going to bring up Rowan and Aelin, but I'm going to bring them up too because I remember very vividly Caitlin's reaction to their reunion because you didn't like it. You were, like, so against the fact that, like, Aelin was rescued, Rowan saw her, and then immediately left. But I argued for the fact that, like, it worked for their characters, and, like, that is why it was so impactful. But I couldn't help but compare the reunion to Rowan and Aelin's, not Rhys and Feyre's or Nesta and Cassian's. And I think it's because Nesta and Cassian, Rhys and Feyre, theirs was like epic love music in the background of like, oh yes. Whereas Rowan and Aelin always fought. Like, they fought even before they were really together. And then they fought and someone asked, like, what I was reading after HOFAS, and it was literally Rowan and Aelin fighting in Kingdom of Ash. Like, those were the scenes that I wanted to revisit. And I think, to y'all's point, like, the reason I really loved them fighting is because there was a sense of grounded love into why they were fighting. It was like Rowan was fighting with Aelin because he felt like she had given up. She was fighting with him because he didn't understand that she was sacrificing everything for him. So, like, they battled it out in a different way. I will be honest and say I didn't really even notice Bryce and Hunt fighting because I think I was so focused on the world building. But I do remember them bickering and just kind of, like, brushing it off in my head. They were not a standout couple for me throughout the book. Like, they were there, and in my head, they had already, like, wrapped up and had their happily ever after. But, like, Rune and Lydia,
yes,
Theion, and how do you say her name? Sathia.
I say Sathia, but yeah.
They were, like, the standout couples for me. Like, I never thought I would say Therion and his wife would be a standout couple, but, like, I saw fan art of them already, and I immediately started screaming. Like, absolutely loved them. So I think that is maybe where the attention went. I also personally think, without knowing anything, but I would ask Sarah this off camera, is like, were you more I think she was more drawn to Rune and Lydia in this book. And yes. I wonder if part of that is because it's just a fan fiction of Rhys and Aelin at this point. So
yes,
let's be honest.
Listen, I did not pay attention to Bryce and Hunt because I was in it for Rune and Lydia. Like,
right.
I listen, I love Bryce. I love Hunt. But, like, it's this same thing. Like, for me in Silver Flames, I love Nesta and I love Cassian, but, like, my ship is Gwenriel. It's the same thing with this. It's I love Bryce and I love Hunt, but my ship is Rune and Lydia. And, like, that's where my focus went. So anytime they were fighting, when they had space sex, I was just like, why are we doing this right now?
That was some Baldur's Gate 3 stuff for anyone that knows, you know.
Move on.
That's what that was.
I do not care. So
yeah.
I literally said it to you. You guys were like, what chapter are you on? I'm like, I'm at the part where they, like, have sex and they're, like, in space and, like, they give each other their powers or something. And Sarah just looks at me. She's like, oh yeah, that did happen.
Yeah.
Like, it's a weird thing. I feel like we all glossed over it because, like, it didn't make any sense. And, like,
this was the first Sarah J. Maas book where anytime there was a spice scene, I was like, I'm getting information. Stop. Like, stop it right now.
It was awkward.
I do not have time for this.
My favorite was Katie walking up to me and going, are Rune and Lydia about to have sex in, like, a barn right now?
Like, on top of a bunch of, like, horse poop? Because literally they talked about, like, sleeping on horse poop in this barn, and then, like, a chapter later it's a spicy scene, and I'm like, this is...
They did not.
They were about to do it in the cave too. They were like going to save them in the cave. It's not the time.
They were going to do it in the cave.
You want to talk about somebody feeling like mates?
Yeah,
Lydia.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too. So, like, like, here's a great example. I saw people complaining about this, and I was like, oh my god, please just stop. Just, if anyone complains about this, like, my Taurus energy is going to come out and tell you to, like, just stop reading. Just don't read any more SJM. But, like, literally, once I saw someone complain about, like, the fact that Rune shot Lydia, and I was like, you guys, you've missed the whole point. Like, the whole point why he did that. You've missed the entire point. Literally,
it was too sad.
If Rowan had a gun, he would have had Aelin would have so many bullets on her shoulders because he would have done the exact same thing. I could not believe how many people complained about that. And I was like, really? Really? That's the hill you're gonna die on? Because
also, like, every SJM man has like injured their mate in some way except for Hunt. So,
yeah.
like,
Well, no, Hunt
really-
left the scar. He left the scar on Bryce.
that's true. That's true.
But she got it removed.
She did get it removed. You're right. Yeah. Yeah. It just, whatever. I mean, I just, to everyone's point, they felt more mated than Bryce did. But they felt more mated in HOSAP.
That
even.
is not to say that Bryce and Hunt aren't mates. It is to say that Rune and Lydia feel more matey.
Yes. Yes.
Bryce and Hunt did in this book.
But
Yeah.
also,
I am still on the Bryce and Hunt are mates
Well,
train.
does anyone here not think they
are
were
both Fae.
right? Does-
You know, and whereas like Bryce and Hunt are like two totally different. So like I feel like the mating bonds are different. Like we've always talked about Fae being like more animalistic and more like emotional, and like
Yeah.
I think that the way that that's described in the book is just different because of who they are too. Like that makes more sense to me that they feel more that way.
Yeah. I mean, does anyone here not think Bryce and Hunt are mates?
Oh my God, don't ask that question.
I've already seen the comments bringing it up. I'm just going to
Oh,
address.
yeah.
I'm just going to address.
Every single person here. Every single person
I mean,
here.
their scents are mixed, and their scents are mixed and scented by literally so many people.
Yeah.
Like, just randomly smell them.
It literally says that they are mates multiple times in this book.
I'm telling you right now.
Like the words are written.
I have never met a fandom who
It's not up
refuses
for
to
debate.
read canon like this fandom. Like it said it, and this is the other thing. Like there's so many things like this that I'm like, it's just black and white. It's literally like no joke. It is this is Lady of Darkness, so that's not helpful. It is literally black and white. Like the text is black, the page is white. You can't change it. That's what's happening in the book. Doesn't mean you have to like the mated pair, but like it wasn't. Sarah loves her mates. It wasn't going to change. The only one that changed was Rowan and Aelin, and I genuinely don't think we'll see another one like them for a while. So like, don't think we're going back to that stuff.
It didn't change for Rowan and Aelin. They were always mates. It's that Maeve fucked everything up.
Right.
Like,
Right.
Lied to.
Yeah. 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 I think it's just it is what it is. Okay, let me see. Ethan and Perry. Okay, let's talk about Brannon. All right, before I talk about the Throne of Glass stuff, because let's end on a happy note for me at least. Let's talk about Ethan really quick. Ethan, Theion, the Siggy storyline. Who wants to start us off?
I can.
Go,
Okay,
Caitlin.
Go, Caitlin.
Caitlin has to start this, I feel like.
I did not enjoy Therion chapters. I vividly remember being like, we're going from this to a Therion chapter. I remember freaking
I
out.
also vividly remember you crying during a Therion chapter. So
I think it was before. I think I went from crying to a Therion chapter. I think that was
well, I have a video of you in Barnes & Noble going, I'm literally crying to a Therion chapter right now. Like, I've got the receipt.
Oh, because I think that was the Siggy chapter.
That
we
was
were
the
getting
Siggy.
Yeah, no, it was when that happened, but it was still funny.
It was in his point of view. So I am really excited for Ethan. I feel like this is like a second chance for him. And I'm hoping my poor wolf heart is going to be, salvaged in the next Crescent City book.
Yeah.
I hope we get more of Ethan in the next Crescent City book. I want more Ethan and I want more Fury in the next Crescent City book. But I would love to see, I think if there's one person who actually had character development, it would be Ethan. Because he went from being
Yes.
weak wolf who wouldn't own up to everything that the Prime kept telling him to do. And he finally stepped into those roles and he was like, oh, like I can do this. Wow, I didn't think I could. Like that was just so amazing. So I really loved the Ethan parts. I'll let somebody else talk about Therion because he's still
I can
a
talk about Therion.
All I'm
There we
going to
go.
say about the Ethan stuff is I thought I had confidence issues because I've had people tell me, oh, you could do this. Why aren't you doing this? And I'm like, because I don't know if I'm really ready. No, Ethan has actual confidence issues because how many times in this book and in the last book did someone say to him, you could be an alpha, you could do this. And he's like, no, we're going to go. Bro. It was more obvious than the Selena and is Aelin. Like, come on. So,
Right.
okay. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah.
Therion.
So for me, Ethan, I'm in agreement. Like, he grew a lot. I'm very interested to see what's going on between him and Perry in the next book. I have questions.
Yeah.
Therian, I could have given absolutely zero shits about until Sathia showed up, and then I was all in. I wanted to know everything.
Married at First Sight. This is my favorite episode of Married at First Sight that I've ever seen.
It's so true. It's so true. Like, you're not wrong at all.
Oh, it's so good. Anyways, that's my thoughts on Therian. Therian was not it for me until Sathia showed up, and then I was in.
I really hated the Therion chapters in HOSAB. That's not a secret. I just couldn't get past them. And I don't know how many times we as a group talked about it. And I said, I know I need to pay attention because Sarah's going to make them important, blah, blah, blah. And the mods warned me before I started the book that, like, you have to pay attention to Therion. Don't just skim him, which they always make fun of me for. I actually liked Therion more than Ethan, which shocked me. However, when Ethan got Rowan powers, that then changed the game for me. But obvious, he said he needed a trainer, and I was like, I know someone who can train. I could literally pull Empire of Storms where he said he was gonna train Dorian. Like, I know someone. So, you know, we just need to get Lydia and Ethan over to Terrason. That's all I know. But yeah, I think. To your point, well, and I don't know if anyone knows this, but Sathia was in the HOSAB bonus. She was in 2 of the HOSAB bonus chapters. She was in the Ruin one, and she's technically mentioned in the Bryce and Hunt one. So I knew who she was when she walked on the page, and some people in our group didn't. And I was like, oh, yeah, she's the crazy bitch friend who's his little sister. But I loved her.
Remember her.
I remembered her, but I loved her in this book.
Yeah.
She's great.
I loved her. She's fantastic.
I mean, you guys know I'm a Therion fan, and he was like mildly annoying to me in this book, but like I'm still a Therion fan.
Yeah,
and it's good for me because he's definitely going to be the next book, right? I mean, we're going to get like a whole story about him, I think. So, I'm excited about that. But oddly enough, I have way more opinions on Ethan. Like, that storyline bothered me for like a number of reasons, and I think the most bothersome part was like the introduction of this character, Sigrid, who actually, like, at the end of this last book had a lot of, like, had all the ingredients to be a very interesting plot line.
Yeah.
And then it fell so short for me because she introduced her just for this horrible thing to happen to her, but we weren't connected with her enough as a character to really care.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could argue
except for Caitlin.
Well, sure, Caitlin loves every wolf and will cry when anything bad happens to any of them.
Yeah.
But, like, for me, it's like, I guess you could argue that it wasn't happening to her. The whole point of it was us to see it happen to Ethan. But, like, again, there wasn't enough foundation there for me to be like, why does he care this much? Like, genuinely, why does he care this much? And I couldn't really put that 2 and 2 together. And I did like his character development by the end, but like that whole part of the plot line felt so weird and weak and like random to me.
It was almost like because the book was House of Flame and Shadow, we like needed more things happening
in Flame and Shadow.
In Flame and Shadow.
Yeah.
And so like there was a lot of this like Reaper stuff that like, I don't know, maybe it'll be more important in the future, but it really felt like it was just kind of like thrown in there because there wasn't as much Flame and Shadow as the title of the book would have claimed it to be.
Right.
I feel
like Ariadne would have helped with that, but I feel like Ariadne also got forgotten.
Yeah. Well, the comments are bringing her up. And to Katie's point about not really caring about Sigrid, I think the issue I run into is Sarah is really good at, I call this the Marvel formula when like OG Marvel, which was like, she's really good at introducing you to a character, giving them a backstory, even if it's not their full backstory, making you fall in love with that character and then ripping it from you. But she missed the first 3 steps with Sigrid, and so when she was ripped from me, I either 1, didn't believe it, or 2, didn't care, because I cared more about Ethan than I did about her, because she didn't, and what's funny is the girls will attest to this, like when I was reading the chapters in the beginning with Sigrid, I said to them, I was like, oh, I like her, she's fun, like she's like, you know, young, naive, stupid, and like that was kind of what was fun about her. So it was interesting to potentially see where that plot would go. And I also don't think it's a far stretch to say that with Hosab's end, with the way that the book ended with Ethan getting her, not even theory spiraling, it just felt automatic that she was going to be important. Mm-hmm. So like it felt like a natural letdown that like you end with Reese and then you read this Ethan chapter, and now thinking about what that story is, why was that the epilogue? Because that is kind of funky.
Same with Ariadne.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that kept me interested in the Ethan chapters was the connection to Flame and Shadow through Hypoxia and Jezebel.
Yeah, I would agree.
That was the thing that made me read those chapters, because I've always had a love for my girl Jezebel. And then, you know, me and witches. So, you know, I was into it. I was like, okay, give me some more information. So they were a wealth of information that was not something I necessarily expected from this book.
Right.
You know who did love Ethan? Jessica.
She did. She did love Ethan.
At one point, I think I looked at Avery and I was like, why is she telling him all of this?
I love him.
Why? Jessica has been this like big mystery for 2 books. And all of a sudden she's like, here's my life story, Ethan. I just don't understand.
Yeah. I
think she needed a person to connect to those two. And like, he just happened to fit the bill. Because he stayed behind.
Young, hot wolf. Makes sense.
Yeah, it's fine. I also think, like, I kind of wonder as we're, like, discussing this, like, this is no secret. Sarah's not great at trilogies. She's great at anything that's longer than 5 books. So maybe that is part of the issue, is, like, she really felt like she had to cram all this in 3 books. Because there is a lot of information that, like, either felt rushed, or, like, here's a perfect example of how Ethan could have been explained with Jezebel in, like, 2 seconds. Bryce worked there for so long. You don't think Ethan visited a few times? Like, Jezebel could have been like, oh, I remember you. You were the Sunball player. And then been like, you can stay. Oh, yeah, Danica did this. Well, because she was so into the Danica stuff, why would she not recognize Ethan as... Like, Ethan visited at least once. You can't tell me he didn't. So, like, there could have been some small connection that might have helped. But I would agree, once he got into the Flame and Shadow stuff, that is where things got interesting for Ethan. But yeah. And I'm curious to see, I think we all are guessing that the next book will be House of Many Waters, and I don't know if anyone disagrees with me, but I think it's obvious that it's probably going to be Theion and Ethan, because there was more unfinished business. And I'm curious to see what Sigrid comes up in there, because that definitely was not left as like we're done. She just was left as crazy. And, you know, I mean, it could be a Vaughn situation, or it could just genuinely be something there to pick up on. And it's the same thing with Therion and, like, his whole situation, too. So there's a few plots there that I'm very curious to see where she takes it. So someone jokingly said this, and I do want to say this, like, as take a poll from the group. Someone's like, so how is Baxian dying? Did anyone here not think Baxian was going to die? Okay, Caitlin just thinks any wolf isn't going to die at this point.
Well, no, and Caitlin said it in the live. She straight up was like, I don't think he's going to die.
Okay, well, Caitlin gets a gold star, because she's the only person.
Caitlin gets a gold star. I will give you your gold star, Caitlin.
Yeah, Caitlin gets a gold star. I genuinely couldn't believe that he made it till the end. Like, I was
Same.
He should have died.
It was shocking that he didn't.
I think he would have been happier if he had died.
Why?
Because somebody with like a main character needed to die, and it was like the Prime and
his mate is already gone. Like, it just also the 3 of them are being tortured. Like, we know we're not gonna kill off the 2 mains, so we gotta get rid of him.
I think her surprise to us was, she was like, well, you know, I'm not gonna kill off the 2 mains. Here's your surprise. This one doesn't die either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, what?
The other thing too is, we didn't say this, but I will say it. Never in a million years did I think this sentence would come out of my mouth, but dungeon buddies were my favorite scenes. Dungeon buddies for life. The cutting of the hand, the 2 angels and a fae walk into a dungeon. Like, they were just so, I laughed out loud and because I genuinely was concerned about the dungeon scenes because I will admit, and I think we all agree, like the Kingdom of Ash ones with Aelin are like, if I can speed read those, I will, because they make me so upset. These ones I was like, oh, we're back in the dungeon. Like they were so much fun. So
my favorite part during this was I was the last one to read the book because I had to work while we were at the house. And so everybody was ahead of me. And I didn't know different parts, but like what was happening. But at one point I looked outside and there was like 4 of you sitting outside on the back porch just going, I had no idea why. And then eventually I get to that part of the book and I'm like, oh my God.
I think that was
too much
Sarah,
time.
Cammy, and Caitlin. Yeah.
We spent too much time that week at the house trying to figure out how he was doing it so that he didn't like to get it, like you wouldn't have to bite the whole thing off. How was he biting through it?
So someone, okay, Britt made a really good point because I was in a chat with her earlier. His hand was in the room, so it definitely was from the wrist. Like he didn't go this way.
Yeah,
I didn't.
Right.
What the heck?
But like, why wouldn't you just bite enough off that you could like?
Right. That's what
I think.
You know what I mean?
Like bite the thumb.
I think my favorite part about it was Katie watches us do that, and then she finally gets to that part, and she just walks out on the porch and goes.
I walked inside and you were like, what chapter are you at? And I was just like,
Yeah.
My favorite part was after they got out of the dungeons, like 2 days later when he didn't even have his hand fully grown back yet. And he was like, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to lift some weights. And I was like, with what hand? Like, with what extremities?
You're telling me you didn't automatically picture Ryan
Deadpool.
Middleton, Deadpool.
It's the baby hand.
You were right.
I was like, it has to be a Deadpool hand.
It's
like
literally. If Sarah says it's any different, she's wrong because that's what it was. It was this baby hand that's lifting a baby weight in the gym. Like, what is this? It's whatever. And then at one point when he's like trying to have sex with Lydia and it brings up the hand and I'm like, bro, don't even use that hand. Just like put it away. Like it might make your dick feel bigger, but like let's just put it away. Like it's too much. Like no.
Oh my God.
The hand was too much. Oh, okay, wait. Someone said, anyone else tired of SJM writing characters with the same name? I saw Celine and immediately thought of Celine Whitethorn. Yes, there's a few names that we were all jokingly saying are very similar. I do want to say this because the group knows this, but I got the context finally. So did anything else about this before I switch topics really quick? Okay, so I have to give a huge props to my mods because they unknowingly put themselves into probably they said it was one of the most stressful 3 weeks of their life. Hardest secrets they've ever kept from me, which is when they got the Portuguese copy of the book and then they were translating it so they understood some of the things that would happen and how they could protect the realm. And I'm very, very, very proud of them. And we have to give them major props in the Discord, but also like we were very spoiler free in the server. So major props also to anyone who was reading the leaks and didn't go to other channels. My favorite thing ever was very early on when they got the copy. They were reading it. We would do FaceTimes because I just like to watch them read it and try and translate it and figure it out. And they were reading it. And I guess the translation was really off on some of the Celine moments. And they, for 3 days, and I don't know if this is right. I know it's for more than a day. They thought Celine was Reese's sister. And so Amanda, those videos I had posted in Discord of Amanda crying is because she thought it was Reese's sister genuinely in there. And which is hysterical because for those that don't know, Amanda and I are very, very, very obsessed with we were before Silver Flames of Reese's sister with Az doesn't actually exist, but it's fine. We think it would have been a good pairing. And so Amanda cried for at least a day of thinking that this woman was Reese's sister, and it wasn't. But these are the fun things I got to find out later on. Was the translation was so poor.
That is genuinely hilarious, especially because during the Midnight Live, I very specifically remember saying if any single person mentions Reese's sister, I'm gonna lose it because I was so sick about hearing about that theory. And I do agree with you. It would have been a cute pairing with her and Hess, but like, I'm just sick of the theory at this point.
Oh,
and that makes it so much funnier knowing that Amanda had all going on.
And also, we hate the theory as well because Sarah has squashed it so many times. So I guess Amanda thought it was one of those, like, Sarah lied to actually keep the reveal a secret. And, like, I watched her face. She was like, like, just started crying. And then when she got the actual book, or when someone got the book and told her the translation, like, yeah, full mental breakdown. Like, she straight up, so she thought half of this book was literally Reese's sister, because then she searched her name and saw how many times it was referenced and was like, oh my God, Reese's sister is in this book. But it wasn't Reese's sister at all. So that is just a fun little translation anecdote that happened. But yeah, I forget the other thing I was going to mention about the Prithian stuff. I don't remember. Okay, we're going to talk about Throne of Glass, all the Throne of Glass references. I would really love to know someone who read this book and didn't read Throne of Glass, because Bestie, you must have been a little confused.
Yeah, I have friends right now that are reading it who have not read Throne of Glass, and they don't know a lot of the things that are happening in certain areas.
Yeah. I will say this. Some people argued with me about this in Discord, but I'm just going to ask the group. Now that you have read HOFAS, would you, if someone came up to you and said, I want to read these Sarah J. Maas books, would you tell them to read Throne of Glass before reading this book, or no?
Yes.
I hope Caitlin's face is like...
Yes, I would have if they had time to do so, but in the context of like all of the spoilers that were out and stuff, and if somebody was like, I have read all of ACOTAR and I have read Crescent City 1 and 2, I don't think I would be like, pause what you're doing, go back and read 7 books and then possibly get spoiled and come back to this one.
Right.
Like, I still think I would have told them to read this one for that reason.
I think you're right. I think in regards to, as we were getting close, so I feel like there's two camps. There's the people who are trying to catch up to the actual release, and that's different, which unfortunately they're the ones that are going to sort of get left behind in all of this. But then there's the camp of people that now we are in a post-release world. I would never at this point recommend someone touch Crescent City until they've read Throne of Glass. Yeah.
It was so much more enjoyable knowing all of those Easter eggs and seeing them. It made reading it so much more fun.
Yeah. So, I'm so sorry.
Okay, they can choose ACOTAR or Throne of Glass to read first, but like they need to read both of them before Crescent City.
Yeah, and I'm just letting you know, it's in the Discord, that is how we will be doing it. We will not be telling you to skip it. So that is just my personal opinion. But I jokingly said to some of the girls as we were reading it together that HOFAS unknowingly was Tower of Dawn plus Kingdom of Ash with guns. That's what it was. So it's kind of wild. I mean, I had a friend who was reading Empire Storms, and she was like, so she called me. She's like, so what's the Underking? And I was like, he's a Barrow. Oh, you don't know what that is, because he's mentioned in Heir of Fire, but it's only when Rowan goes into the caves and gets his wedding ring, that he actually encountered. Like, they actually talk about Barrow rights, which is what most likely the Underking is. So there's all, for anyone who like doesn't know, and someone can like refresh my brain, but like the big ones was, which we can talk later about if the Asteri are Valg, but the Asteri in the coffin, which was oddly reminiscent of Elena and Gavin's tomb underneath Otterlin.
Vesperus.
Yes. The star constellations and everything, for someone who doesn't know, if you go back and you look at Crown of Midnight, same description of the cave. The spider hatching, they described her as a spider hatching out from the Asteri. Then there was obviously there's the word Erd thing. That's a big one. There was the antidote, which was oddly reminiscent of Irene Towers and everything that went down with her. There was the
shifter stuff.
There's the shifter stuff, which is the big one, which I couldn't believe that some people were still questioning that. And I'm like, it literally was explained to you in POSAB, and then it was reiterated in this book. Lydia, I don't care what anyone says, she's a sunstag. The description is the same. And that is tied to, which once again, we can chalk this up to misogynistic history, but that is tied to Mala, not Brannon, but it would make sense why she thinks it's tied to Brannon. Then there was I think the fire sprites are the little folk because of the connection of how close they were. The Barrow White and the Underking, there was a lot. Parasite, the word parasite was used almost as much in this book as it was used in the entire Throne of Glass series, which is literally how they describe the Valg. Black blood was used quite a few times, which I'm not even going to get into that because then there was also dark red blood, and that's another question for another day. What else am I forgetting?
Didn't they say that Hunt's Halo of Thorns was like reminiscent of like it's an evolved version of what used to be
the collar, the Valg collar. Yeah, the ring, I'm gonna just go ahead and say this because I don't want to hear it ever again. The ring that Lydia is wearing, the red one, I think is more reminiscent of Brannon and the King's Flame than it is of Rowan's ring, because red is also an interpretation of Brannon in regards to Mala and the King's Flame, so I'm gonna put that there. There was also the reference to the primal fae with the canines, which I have to give Avery props for, because before we started the rereads, Avery was like, oh yeah, the Throne of Glass fae have canines, but like the ACOTAR fae don't. And I was like, excuse me? And she was like, yeah, you know, I noticed this. And I was like, what? So she's right. And
to be fair, I noticed it because I read ACOTAR first, and it was a difference.
Yes.
So it was easy for me to pick up on.
It also said that the Throne of Glass fae were taller, which is canon into what we know of like Aelin and Rowan and Lorcan and all of them. There was a lot of, I mean, the Valg references were insane, and just in general, the way they defeated the Valg was reminiscent of Irene and everything that went down there, which is another reason why I was like, so when are we going to Eelway? When are we calling up Aelin? Like, what is... It's fine. It was a missed opportunity in my opinion, just because of how many times it was like bashed over my head as a Throne of Glass reader. But, oh, and then Lorcan is definitely a test tube baby like Hunt. And
I was going to say, tell me how you feel about Lorcan now, Sarah.
I genuinely...
Tell me how you feel about Lorcan now.
I think Lorcan is going to get me to Aelin, and so I will accept it. But for those that don't know, I think I deserve the credit for this, which is that I thought Apollyon was Hunt's father.
You get the credit for that. That one's all you.
I'm giving myself the credit. I also somewhat am giving myself a plus bonus point. It's not 100% credit. I'm giving myself like 80 plus 5 for the fact that I also said Apollyon and Thur were somehow tied together. So you're welcome, internet, for everyone thought I was batshit crazy, because I knew there was something there. But the minute they started talking about it, I suddenly realized that is what Lorcan is, because of all his ties to Hellas, because we never got the names of the other princes of Hell. And then I also couldn't believe that the murder twins, I don't even remember their name, but they were called murder twins a million times in Avalon. Avalon. I keep saying, it's because I was just talking about Lady of Darkness. It's not, my brain's already moved on. So the king, Morven, he had Azrael shadow singing powers. Then we had Rune, who has like Reese's shadows, which is more like misty, like violence. And then there's the murder twins, which those were almost identical to Lorcan's shadows.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but also, do you remember? I'm not gonna remember their names in Akawar when Feyre is in the Spring Court and there's those two
Jagden and Branna.
Yeah, that it seemed very reminiscent of the way that their magic was described.
I think it's very interesting that their names are Jagden and Branna, but you know, it's fine.
Yeah,
everything's fine.
Right.
Also, I just want to just interject really quickly before we continue to talk about my man, and
Jesus Christ,
and say that because we were reading in the same house, my favorite thing in the world was I was dead tired, but I decided I was going to watch Percy Jackson, and then you just hear Sarah come stomping down the hallway, and she goes, I was right about Apollyon. Wait, hold on, I gotta finish. And then I looked at her and I said, what chapter are you on? She's like, 58, the end of 58. And I said, keep reading, you're half right. And she's like, dang it. And she ran down, and then I got 7 individual text messages of, I was right. And Kim heard me come down the hallway over there.
You have to let me tell this part of the story.
Okay,
wait. I have to interject for one quick part, which is I went to bed at like 9:00, told these ladies I was not going to read anymore. Then, surprise, Sarah woke up at 12:30 and saw that line. And that's why everyone was like, you're awake, go to sleep. What the fuck? Relax. Like, so that's for the context. Okay, go ahead.
So Cammie hears us both go down the hallway.
Let me tell this part of the story because it was funny. So my room, we were all upstairs, and my room was in the middle of Sarah and Avery's. I don't know if you guys know, this was in the middle of the night. I was like, wait, 1:00?
Uh-huh.
I was doing annotations for Queen of Shadows in my room. I hear Sarah go, stop. And I'm like, not knowing what's happening. And I hear the entire muffled conversation. I'm like, okay, she's not gonna come in here. It's fine. And then I don't know what happened. It was like 5 minutes later, and here comes Avery. Stop.
Yelling, go to bed at the top of my lungs.
But you like walked all the way down the hall to her room.
She had texted me and I had told her to go to bed, and she texted me again, and I was like, I'm momming this shit out of her right now. Go to bed. You have not slept.
Because I was sleeping awfully in the house. Like, it wasn't, I need to clarify, it wasn't the house's fault at all. It was me. Oh. I woke up at 4 a.m. every day. I went to bed at I got maybe 5 hours of sleep every night if we're lucky. Like, I just
napped a lot.
I tried to nap. I ended up having to buy earplugs, not because it was anyone's fault, but because I needed a way to absolutely calm my body. Like, it was genuinely the way someone said it was like your wedding. Like, why? My body thought it was, but it made no sense at all. Why? But it was, yeah. So the Apollyon stuff, when I read that chapter, it was good. Then I realized, and for those that don't know, I really hate Lorcan. Lorcan and I are not on good terms. I jokingly say.
But one of my favorite parts of the week was when I walked into the kitchen and you were standing at the island typing furiously something. And I was like, you good? And you were like, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm defending Lorcan right now on the internet.
I really hate Lorcan. And I say all the time that if I was really in Throne of Glass, Fenris and I would be on one side of the aisle like this when it comes to Lorcan. And everyone else would be like, you need to get over it. It's fine. In fact, I literally read a line from Kingdom of Ash where Aelin says to Fenris, get over it, we all have. And I was like, ow, Aelin, okay, you know what? No, stop it. Don't tell me what to do. But it felt like she was trying to tell me. And I realized I couldn't believe Lorcan popped into my head with all the Hunt stuff. But I was like, oh, it's all going to go back to Lorcan. Because if this is my crack theory / I mean, at this point, I thought Apollyon was Hunt's father was a crack theory, and I was right. So, we're just going to go with this. I think if there are 3 characters that are super important now in Throne of Glass, and I think it is Manon, I think it is Lorcan, and I think it is Fenris. Fenris is easy. He's the emissary of Terrace, and he's going to travel everywhere. He's a poor, lost little puppy dog, literally and figuratively. He's fine, okay? Lorcan is literally the test tube baby of Aurelia because he was found randomly by Maeve. There's no explanation. He has these death shadow powers, and God knows how many times Hellas was brought up around him. So, test tube baby. So there's our little Hunt 2.0, or I should say 1.0 because he's older than Hunt. Then Manon, which some people were arguing with me about this, but I'm going to use Vampire. Has everyone in here watched Vampire Diaries? Okay, I'll explain for Ashley. I'm going to use Vampire Diaries lore for this, which is in Vampire Diaries, if you kill off an original or if you kill off someone, anyone they created dies. It's like a ripple effect.
I've watched the originals. So
okay,
I get that.
yeah, okay. Yeah. So I'm somewhat wondering in my head, because we got rid of the Valg, and if I do my timeline right, because I don't think this is time travel, we're about almost a year out from Kingdom of Ash at this point, based off of everything, if we're lucky. I'm a little concerned about our girl Manon, because Manon, if you remember, as witches in Throne of Glass are half Valg, half Fae, and all of the Valg are gone. And we just got an antidote to get a parasite out of your body, which essentially is equivalent of getting a Valg out of your body. And I think we need to get that to Manon and the witches ASAP. And then look, we can actually have the mating bond of Dorian and Manon, which we all think happened in Kingdom of Ash. So I think if we're doing a Throne of Glass trilogy, which is what I think it is, if I did my math right on the books she's contracted for, it's going to be tied to those three. And I'm here for it. So I can't believe I'm saying I'm wishing for a Lorcan book, but I'm slowly, you know what, we're lucky this isn't coming out for like probably 3 years. I need time to process the fact that Lorcan is going to get me Aelin, and that's fine. So
somebody would like your dissertation on you not liking Lorcan, because they asked if it was just because he narked on Aelin, and I said that's the short story, but she could give a dissertation on why she doesn't like Lorcan. So now you're being asked for the dissertation. The dissertation, which they've heard me say it a million times, so I won't bore them, is that Lorcan is a 500-year-old warrior, and he gave up the identity of a 19-year-old woman. Because he was quote unquote scared for her, but yet he was traveling with someone who really wanted to see that 19-year-old woman.
Hey, hold on. I was eating sushi, so I turned off my camera. I didn't turn it back on because I'm not gonna let you just say things like that about him.
Okay.
I've already tried to have this argument with her, Katie. It doesn't go well.
Yeah, this argument's not gonna go well for you. I'm just letting you know. So he's not the reason Aelin is put in the coffin, but he is the reason she was put in the coffin on that specific day at that specific time. So I don't forgive him. I'm getting over it. You can sit and type "it was all Aelin's fault" a million times. You're not going to change my mind, just so you know. She would have
gone in the coffin either way.
She would have gone in the coffin either way, but it is Lorcan's fault for why she went to that coffin on that specific day.
Okay, but like Lorcan has the whole like he's an asshole to everyone but Elite thing, right? Like that's the whole thing.
Right? Uh-huh. She's 19.
And, like I think it's cute.
I'm with Aelin. We've all gotten over it.
I'm gonna get over it.
Heard same.
I'm gonna get over it.
We've all gotten over it.
If Aelin's, I will get over it. It's just if Lorcan is the reason I'm gonna get Aelin, I can get over it. But I just cannot believe
that's what it'll take to forgive him.
He gives and he takes away. It's a give and a take with Lorcan.
Yeah. No. It's just it's not. Let me tell you, don't even try to defend Lorcan because it won't go well for you. The only reason I am decently okay with Lorcan is because Iliad gave him wrath at the beginning of Kingdom of Ash, and so we have really moved on.
I hope you're right, and I hope that Hunt's test tube babiness is tied to Lorcan. I hope that all of this is accurate. Like I hope that's true.
The worst part is like you will literally have to watch me, the one who came up with this, be right about Lorcan, and that is the most infuriating part about this whole thing.
Who wants a house for the Lorcan book?
I want a Lorcan book.
A house for the Lorcan book.
Oh yeah.
I'm wondering if Fenris is like, you know, a valid part, because I've been saying since Kingdom of Ash that when Aelin went through all the worlds and we started really like seriously talking about a multiverse, I'm like, Fenris, it's gonna be Fenris. So I want a Fenris book.
Yeah.
Fenris can winnow. Like it's gonna happen.
Well, Sarah has said publicly that she wants to write a Fenris book. And so that I think is just locked in. Like I think not only that, but did y'all watch the Today Show clips? Because she straight up brought up Fenris and said how she wanted to go on
watch the clips. I watched the whole thing.
Oh, well, the clips were different than the interview. So the
whole thing.
Oh, well, the clips said that she brought up Fenris and said she wanted to go on a date and learn more about him. And I was like, yeah, so we're still on the Fenris book. I'm assuming that's what's going on. And then the Lorcan stuff, I personally think Sarah wants to redeem the Lorcan Iliad stuff, which is fine. You know what? If I hear Lord Lorcan Locken, I can deal with this. Like I can be like, okay, anyways, like, you know, we will accept. But as long as Aelin gives him hell at least once, and I think that's a given, I can move on. I think this is a thing. So I'm here for it.
Does anybody think we're getting a hell book?
I think potentially that Throne of Glass trilogy is going to tie into that.
Okay. So I've been curious. Like,
I think we will go to kind of like we did in this book. I don't think that it will be a book centered on.
Yeah.
Would be really cool though, because I do agree with you. Like the hell stuff is really interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels weird to just give us like a very like brief peek at that world and also those characters without really giving us any more context around it. So like I think more context is coming one way or another.
Yeah, I think I keep saying trilogy for Throne of Glass, and I want to clarify that it's not me saying trilogy because I'm like a Throne of Glass girly and I just want a Throne of Glass trilogy. It's trilogy because Sarah doesn't write duologies and she doesn't write standalones, and there's no way in hell we're getting a standalone or a duology of Throne of Glass. If we are, I will be very impressed with her because I think it's going to be a trilogy. Just in general. And if I do the math correctly, which granted I am going more under than over, and so what I mean by that is there's like 2 book difference in my version, so I'm pretending like those 2 books don't exist because I don't want to get my hopes up. But if I do the math right, it would be the House of Many Waters book, and then there's 3 remaining, and that is the Throne of Glass trilogy. But I also don't think it's just going to be Throne of Glass. I think it's going to be very like crossover-y across the 3 worlds, and that's how we're going to get this book. So that's what I think is going to happen. But I don't know. I'm curious to see what she does. And it's probably going to lead to Lorcan, and I will get over it. I'm starting to get over it.
I just need my Gwenriel book. That's all I need.
Yeah, well, that's next, babe.
I'm just waiting.
That's next. Yeah.
Just waiting.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of where we're at and where things are heading. But yeah. Anything else? Anything else y'all want to discuss? I mean, I think the Throne of Glass stuff was the big thing. I will say really quickly, I saw the comment come across, and I do agree that I think as the book was closing, I agree. If Aelin showed up, everything would have gotten solved like this because she knew all the answers. And I think that is why she didn't show up. But I also think it's a missed opportunity for her not to show up. And if anything, I hope this book taught people who skipped Throne of Glass that they need to go back and read it because it was so heavily coded. I mean, I'm sorry, Throne of Glass was more heavily coded in this book than anything in ACOTAR. Like, ACOTAR was in the forefront, but everything underneath was Throne of Glass. So
yeah, I will say I want to talk about the theories with the Asteri and the Valg and stuff a little bit.
Okay.
Just because I don't know. I know that you guys keep saying that Lanthus was Valg.
Mm-hmm.
And I still am not fully on that train because I don't necessarily think that the Asteri are Valg or Lanthus is Valg. I think that all of the bad guys across all of our universes right now are like offshoots of the Asteri in some way or another, because they did kind of establish that in the like Prithian lore,
mm-hmm.
that like the Asteri created pets and they created like their little monsters, and like I think the Valg could have come from the Asteri in that way, but I think the big bads are the Asteri, not the Valg. I think the Valgs are trickle down, and so that's I guess my feeling, but I don't know.
I go back and forth. I can't figure it out right now. And part of that is because when I went back and reread the Valg history in Kingdom of Ash and Tower of Dawn, it felt a little Asteri, but the numbers aren't adding up in my head. But I also wonder that regardless, this is what I think is going on. I think before the book happened, the question was, you know, were the Asteri Valg, were they under the same umbrella or were they not? And I think the answer is, regardless, they're under the same umbrella. Whether one is on top of the other, it doesn't matter. They're both on one side of bad guy. And then I think Hell is on potentially the other side because they're kind of, in some ways, helping everyone out. So I also think, fun fact, I learned this recently, if you search Hell with one L, it's a female. It's the mother of chaos in Norse mythology. So I'm starting to think that Hell is also a word in the Erd, and she's in charge of all of that, which could then be very interesting in regards to how this is all solved and all that fun stuff. But that's for another tangent. I wish there was more clarification, but to your point, Katie, I mean, before we got HOSAB, my biggest theory was that the Asteri were Valg. And then I read HOFAS, and I was like, damn, Sarah gaslit me hard into thinking that wasn't true. And so now I'm 50-50 on it.
Somebody said in the comments, what about the Daglin? I'm still a little confused on that. The Daglin are the Asteri. That's confirmed.
Yeah. That was confirmed that the Daglin equals Asteri. So that is not tied to Valg at all. That is Daglin, Asteri, done. And I think now the question is, the one thing you can't deny it is the word of the parasite. Like if the word parasite was only ever used for the Valg and Throne of Glass. In fact, if you search, I thought it was used more frequently. It's not. I searched the word parasite in the Throne of Glass bundle. It's used 15 times. And every single one of those 15 times, it is about the Valg. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. The number of times, I haven't even looked. I'm going to look now. The number of times the word parasite is used in HOFAS, and I'm willing to bet every single time it's tied to the Asteri. Let's see.
I mean, we could very easily get this answer in the next ACOTAR book, I think. And I think the only reason we didn't really get a confirmation is because we didn't get Nessa's point of view, because she's the only person who has seen an Asteri and Lanthus. Like, she would be able to tell us if they felt similar or different.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of answers we'll get in the next ACOTAR book that tie into some of the stuff that we got Throne of Glass wise here. Like Bryce sending Nesta on the mission to figure out why the Star Sword, what the Star Sword means to her, and why the 8-pointed star was tattooed on her back. Like that is the bloop of the next book. Like we gotta, and so obviously it's an Azrael book, but so we gotta figure it out. I said Azrael. I didn't confirm anything. It was an Azrael book.
The word parasite was used 47 times in House of Flame and Shadow, and it was all tied to the Asteri. Whereas the word parasite, if I look it up in the Throne of Glass bundle, which I finally purchased because of how many times I do this type of stuff. Hey, Britt, can we get this for Lady of Darkness by chance? Just one for you and I, by the way.
When you're done searching that, can you search to see how many times intergalactic was?
Oh, you're gonna love this. It's used almost every time parasite was used too. So, because I saw intergalactic parasite, it's used 15 times in Throne of Glass, and most of those references to parasite is from Tower of Dawn on. So, just for clarification, intergalactic.
Somebody also said, can we talk about the ending? Did you watch Big Hero 6? Because SJM certainly did. And like
it was used 9 times, intergalactic.
That's it?
I mean, I thought parasite was used way more often, so I get it.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to be honest, again, literally blacked out during the black hole stuff because I was so not focused anymore at that point. It didn't bother me.
It was the Iron Man. It was the Iron Man for me.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I had in my head was Iron Man.
Everybody's saying Iron Man, but Big Hero 6 is better.
Big Hero 6 is
But I don't know, I guess I feel like I had a really hard time visualizing it because it was very confusing to me. It was like there's a black hole and it's sucking everything in, but it's not sucking everything in, and then it only sucked in Rice and the other people near her, and then like somehow Hunt is like looking into this black hole, but not. It was just like, I don't know, I had a hard time with the visualization of all of it.
I mean, Sarah forgot that Hunt put the mask on. So
yeah, but to be fair, this is when I started zoning out. So like,
that's true.
And I will say, like, for anyone wondering, because I want to reiterate, the reason I was zoning out was because I was so brain dead at this point and just wanted to move on. I will eventually go back and reread these and then have an opinion on it. I just don't right now. But there's no.
I also think you weren't the only one who didn't register that it was the mask. Like it was, like it was, it was a lot.
Yeah, it didn't, I don't know. I mean, I think we all kind of reiterated this, which is I feel like it was just, it was the end of Bryce and Hunt, and she needed a way to do it. And if there's one thing Sarah does in every single one of her like end series books, it is that she makes sure one of the main love interest dies in some dramatic way. For Aelin, it was putting a key in her arm. For Reese and Faye, it was literally Reese dying. for Nesta and Cassian, we thought Cassian was dying. And then for this, it was Bryce. So like it didn't even register to me. Like I was like, whatever. Anyways, moving on.
But tied to Bryce dying, we can also now talk about Jezebel and the trade, because that's where everybody has the videos of me crying on the porch.
I also was ugly crying for that moment. Not only was I crying for the Jezebel moment, because like I feel like Jezebel is like that cool aunt, like that's kind of like the vibes I'd always gotten from her. But then after that, after we just dealt with the heartbreak of Jezebel, we get to see Danica, and I lost it.
I didn't even register that.
Yeah, no, Danica and Lahaba are on the hill. Like it's a whole thing.
That was rough.
Yeah, it was a rough time.
Definitely didn't register any of that. So this is the first time I'm realizing that.
Which, I just want to say, I said we would see the wolves again. Everyone was like, no, we won't. I was like, I don't think they're coming back to life. I said we would see them again. And everyone was like, no. And we saw them again. So I claim that.
Yeah. I mean, it was sentimental. It was very sweet. I didn't register it. I probably would have been more emotional if I did. But I
think you'll be emotional on a reread.
I think I already went back and reread some of the Rune and Lydia stuff, more because of the Lydia, Brannon, Ace stuff. So like that's, which I mean, I won't jump into that really quick because I do want to talk about that, but I do want to say that I agree the Jezebel stuff in this book was so great. I wish we had gotten more of her, but I also understand why we didn't. But she was, and her sacrifice was so, it was so well done. And it was funny. I started having like all these flashbacks to like conversations she had with Adis, and like Adis's conversations to Hunt in the first book. And it was cool to see how they all now connect and how they all tie together. So I think it's really, really sweet. Like
it was fully. Does somebody want to put Jezebel's ashes in a cup?
Right. Right.
Rune, really?
Like Rune, come on, buddy. But yeah. I want to quick, because we glanced over it, and I think it's something that was fun, which is the Brannon Ace situation. It was, so I should say that the mods, I sent them a list before the book came out, when like we're reading the leaked, and it had 4 things on it, and these were 4 things that I would literally chuck the book across the room if any of this was true, because I needed time to process. And one of the things on the list was Aelin and Lydia being directly related to each other, meaning descendant one after the other. And so the mods pulled me into the room, and they told me that Lydia does say she is tied to Brannon, but that was it. And they were very, very, very specific to make sure that was the only piece of information I knew. Because unlike the rest of the internet, which I'm just assuming, I am the one person who will lose their mind and freak out over children. So finding out it was Lydia's children was a bigger deal to me than finding out it was Brannon. But I loved that she had kids, and I loved that they were twin boys, and that one of them looks like her, but, you know, has the blue eyes, and then the other has the other, which now I want to know who the father is, and like technically they're shifters, and so what are they shipped into? But we don't know, and so I have a lot of questions. Also, do those blue eyes come from Elena? Like, do they come from the Galathinius line? Do they come from the father? Like, I have so many questions, so I'm very excited about them.
We know what the other boy's name comes from yet? Or, I mean, because I feel like if one boy has a name that's very tied to the rest of SJM lore and bloodlines, like that other name is gonna become important at some point.
I don't think you're wrong there. I think it will become important.
I know in regards to Greek mythology, it's a tragedy. So like,
great.
So that
great.
Yeah, because I did a quick search about it, and so I do know that it's probably some sort of, I think I can look it up really quick just so everyone is. So it said, how do you say the name? Actaeon?
I just call him Ace.
Yeah,
because
okay.
that's That's what she calls him.
So it says, in Greek mythology, he was the son of the priestly herdsman, which I'm not going to try and say these names. Though through his mother, he was the member of the ruling house. Like Achilles in later generations, he was trained by a centaur. He fell to a fatal wrath of Artemis. But his myth was attached to her Roman counterpart Diana. But the surviving details of his transgression vary. The only certainty is in what he suffered. His pathos and what Artemis did, the hunter became the hunted, and he transformed into a stag, and his raging hounds struck the wolf frenzy, tore him apart as they would a stag. So he had a very tragic death.
Oh, that's upsetting.
Oh, wow.
Great.
So
She turned into a stag and got ripped apart.
By wolves.
By
Awesome.
wolves.
Great.
So
Awesome.
Okay.
I'm going
Love that
to...
for us.
Great.
On a different note, but still tied to when we found out that Lydia had sons, one of my favorite things about the house was every single person coming up to me when Lydia dies and going, "Is this real?" And my standard answer was, "Yes, but I'm okay."
Yeah.
I remember thinking in that moment, I was like, no.
Yeah, that's what I did.
No.
I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
No.
Same. I was like, she can't die.
That's when the Therion is useful when he's useful started.
Yes, that is
that
when
was-
it started.
That was a tagline in the house. Therion is useful when he's useful.
Yep. Correct. Yes.
We all said that at some point.
Yeah. And then Caitlin happened to be sitting next to me, but behind me by 10 chapters when I read that Lydia had kids, and the internal all caps screaming text messages that the mods got from me because I couldn't scream next to Caitlin, because Caitlin would go, "What?" And I'd be like, I can't
Yeah.
talk about it right now. Yeah, so there was a lot of screaming. Plus, it was early in the morning for that one. That was a morning time situation. Yes.
Yeah.
We talk about Hypoxia a little bit because
Yes.
I feel almost like SJM is trolling us at this point. Like she's like laughing internally and she's like, no, like she's the best necromancer. Like, I promise you. It's almost like if you like want to send your friends and they're like, hey, do you have any good restaurant recommendations? And you gave them like the crappiest restaurant in town just to like laugh about the fact that they actually went and ate there. It's like SJM keeps being like, no, really, Hypoxia can bring these people back to life. Not like she's so bad at it. Like, why do we keep saying she can do this? She clearly can.
The Hypoxia storyline in general felt lackluster, and I don't know why. Just something about it didn't sit well.
Well, yeah, and she pretty much gave up her crown. Like, I don't know. I guess maybe because we're just very used to these like badass heroines in all of SJM. Like, the fact that she told that story and was like, they asked for my crown or told me they would kill me, and I willingly gave up the crown, and then they still tried to kill me, and I ran away. All of that was like, I mean, I don't know what happened there, but it just made me feel like she was kind of a lame character in that moment.
And she forgives Celestina at the end. And I'm like, what?
The whole Celestina storyline was also a big downer.
That was such a downer. Yeah.
Because I don't know. I expected more of Celestina trying to help Hunt, and she came in the final hour, and at that point, I agree with Hunt. We should have just killed her. Like, I thought it was so stupid, but I also understood what purpose she served in the story. I just felt like, unless you were paying close enough attention to understand that, it felt very lackluster. So I was like, okay, fine, I get it. Like, she's a good angel. We have to let the archangel be a good archangel, like, whatever. But at the same time, did we? I don't know. I'm very, very iffy on that whole plot. It's fine. But yeah, the Hypoxia stuff, I mean, in general, in video games, in lore, I love necromancers. Like, they're some of my favorites. Like, in, a lot of different video games I play out, I will typically play a necromancer because I like that role. It's like a dark healer, and I usually play a healer. So whenever necromancy is brought up, I get really excited, and I would agree that it was very much of a letdown in how it went about, because there's so much cool lore around necromancy that you could really play off of, and it felt like very, very lackluster to me. So yeah. Okay, I was asking a request for something. Then let me think. Oh, someone's bringing up Fury, and I do want to say that was kind of disappointing that we didn't get the answer to what Fury is in this.
Yeah.
Or Amryn, for that matter.
Right.
Because that felt like that was coming.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it's coming in the next ACOTAR book. Maybe we'd get that answer there. Lord knows.
Yeah.
We might get the answer for what Amryn is, and then just assume that Fury is also that same species.
Or very similar, yeah.
I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
Well, but the thing is, Amryn chose that form.
Mm-hmm.
So she chose a form that's not actually Amryn. She chose something that's similar to Fury.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm more interested in why she chose that form and what, like, where all of that came from.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know we're getting close to that 2 hour mark, and I told you guys I was going to keep you under 2 hours. So what, any last minute thoughts, last minute things we want to discuss? No? Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, Kate! No, I literally.
It's so good. It's so good.
I was unwell for several hours over that photo.
It's a sun
Several
stag.
hours.
It's a sun stag again. In case anyone's wondering, it's a sun stag. Look at that sun stag. Literally sun stag. Yeah.
I'll type the artist name in the comments.
I
Yeah.
love
You
him
can go look
so
at it.
much.
Well, then I'll say this, because I feel like a lot of us, and it's somewhat bittersweet for me. For those that don't know, I'm calling it Mass Madness in March. So there's going to be a week where we're really going to do like a masterclass in regards to HOFAS. Not as fully in depth. Listen, my brain is not there yet. But the point is we're going to, some of your questions, some of your things, we'll discuss it during that week of like full madness. So I just want to let you guys know that we will dive into more of this during that 1 week. But after that week is over, I'm very excited to be moving out of Sarah J. Maas for a little bit. I don't want to say like I'm picking up and leaving. It's just more like I'm leaving the hotel for like 2 years and then I'll come back when we have new releases, as we prep. But for everyone else, I noticed that there's a big shift in the fandom in regards to like now that Sarah J. Maas is, somewhat, it feels like the hype is kind of settling a little bit. Where is everyone moving towards? Because I see, we got some romance ladies. We might have some, some fantasy chicks. We might have some dark romance. Like, where is everyone kind of leaning right now in regards to their reads?
For me, I'm kind of doing like a palette cleanser and doing some like romance stuff for Valentine's Day and all that. But then once my mind has been wiped, I'm going to go into the Legacy series, which I'm so excited for. I'm so excited. So
I think Caitlin and I might attempt to buddy read that. I'm not sure, but like I'm also palette cleansing right now. I just finished Unsteady by Peyton Corinne, which Kate suggested to me. Hockey romance, delightful. But yeah, I'm mostly in my romance palette cleanser. I might hit a dark mafia book up. Unclear. We'll see.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I'm doing Hermione fanfic right now, and then I've got.
I love it. I love it.
It's because it doesn't hurt my brain,
Right.
I know the world, I know the characters, and then I wanted to go into some contemporary romance, but I've got 2 fantasy arcs due before the end of this month, so I've gotta push through.
Yeah. Katie or Cammie?
I mean, I'm not really a contemporary romance girly. So I'm palette cleansing by cosplaying currently.
Love it.
And then I'll go back right into fantasy. Although I will say that the new season of Bridgerton is coming out, and I'm very excited about that. So I might try and read like the first few.
Ooh, I might join you in that. I would do it with you. Yeah.
Also, you got a really badass suit of armor recently, Miss Ma'am.
So cool. It was so cool.
I had to figure out how to style it.
Yeah.
So,
how about you, Katie?
Well, I'm gonna read the second book of that one series, The Court of Courts and Courting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what it's actually called.
A Court This Cruel and Lovely, but yes.
Yeah. Yep. Yes. And then I don't know, I'll probably do a palette cleanser, some sort of, contemporary, but then I'm going to do what you have instructed me to do and read Lady of Darkness. So
Yeah.
Yes. I think Katie and I also talked about both doing Manacled at some point before.
Yeah, and I now have it on my Kindle.
Same.
With the little cover on it. Thank you, Kate, for that. So I'm excited to do Manacled. I do think I have to be in the right mindset for Manacled, because it's long.
Yes,
it's a lot. There are trigger warnings, which I'm not very triggered by a lot of reading, but I also don't read a lot of like super, super dark stuff. So I feel like I just have to be like in the right space for it.
Yeah.
So
Ashley, what about you?
Definitely be the right headspace.
Well, I'm with Cammie. I'm a fantasy girl, so right back into fantasy. I just finished Ruthless Vows, and it absolutely ripped my heart out, and I cried, and it was wonderful. 5 stars, everything amazing. Highly recommend. And then I am gonna do Lady of Darkness though with Katie. She and I talked about at the house about buddy reading that, so we will definitely give you guys reactions for that. I'm very excited to read that. But then I have like a huge list of epic fantasy and romantasy to read.
Yeah. I think I'm kind of like Ashley. So, well, for those that don't know, The Realm is doing Lady of Darkness as our read along, which was a huge deal that we selected it because, I mean, that has been in years in the works. And when I finished that and then I read the first Legacy book, it was very obvious that we were going to head in this direction. And I'm very excited to be partnering with the author Melissa Rourke and Britt, who's in the chat. I run Melissa's socials, but by the way, this was planned before I was doing that. So just in case anyone's wondering, this was planned months in advance before that started. And so we're going to be, for those that remember the old book buds, we're going to be doing, oh, that's Caitlin's laptop. She said her laptop was dying. We're going to be doing the old school style with the slideshow, but I think we're going to lean more towards masterclass. So it won't feel as heavy as book buds, but it will be more masterclass style. And then I'm just going to go ahead and announce it, which is that Avery is kind of taking the lead on this, but we are also setting up Melissa's wiki pages, which is really exciting because we are going to be making sure that they're canon and everything, and then Avery's really taking the lead on that. So that is
it was something that was missing when I was reading the book, so we would like to provide that service.
Yeah. So the service will be provided. So there's no notes that are happening, but we will be working on the wiki pages, and so that will be public for everyone to enjoy. We have already claimed the URLs, I should say that. So that is something, and I'm very excited. So that starts in April, and that goes from April to July, where there's a few dates that might need to get shifted around. So that's why I'm not announcing the official dates yet. But it's Kindle Unlimited, so there's no harm in downloading it. All of the audiobooks should be out by the end of this month. I'm going to say that. I'm not going to elaborate more on it. Let's just say we're just waiting on the last one. It's fine. And the other thing is the Legacy series comes out, the second one, which I was lucky enough to read. And so I'm very excited for a lot of people in this chat, a lot of people on here to officially read it, because it truly was, in some ways, what I wished HOFAS was. So I think that is what makes that book very exciting. Very different vibes. So I don't want to get anyone's mind in a certain direction, but just some of the inner workings of it was really well done. And then besides that, I am actually really excited to not, I hate to say this, but not spend 24/7 touching a book. Besides obviously my job with the Realm Studios touching books, which I love, because by the way, I didn't mention this, but my current palette cleanser is Till Death by Miranda Lynn, which I'm loving, and that is coming out in April. So we are doing a buddy read for it. I really want you guys to read it. It's a standalone fantasy book. It's giving Moulin Rouge vibes. It's great. But I'm really excited to do things like gaming. I'm just excited to kind of get more into that nerdy space again that I love so much. It really bums me out that some of you guys don't get that Horizon Zero Dawn reference, because it is one of the best video games out there. And it genuinely is exactly what happened with Celine. So I'm going to be doing a lot more of those types of things, still reading, but also just kind of balancing life and exploring so many different avenues. So, yeah.
Play video.
What?
You and I, we're gonna play video games.
We really should do a Baldur's Gate campaign. Like, this is a missed opportunity.
That'd be so fun. I would be so down for that.
We should definitely, anyone who wants to join, we should do a Baldur's Gate campaign, because that would be hysterical with this group and the absolute chaos it would cause. So yeah, I'm really excited. And yeah, I can't wait for those of you that haven't read Lady of Darkness to read it, because I think initially you will get one set of vibes, but if you stick with it long enough, like you do with Throne of Glass, you will be so happy you did. And it is incredible. And know now that the dragons have been claimed. So.
By several people, and we welcome anyone else who likes the dragons.
Thank you, Avery.
Sure. Okay. Let's just say it was very hard to get someone close to Rowan, and someone definitely got close to Rowan, and I was like, whoa, okay.
To be fair, this same person is also my number 2 next to Cassian, so she hates that we share him. Sorry, I'm not sorry.
It's okay. It's fine. I know
he's really hot.
He's very hot, and
I love the couple. So
by the way, Melissa told me today that no one's ever complained about him, and I am shocked, because I thought
really?
Yeah, that's what no one has ever said a negative thing about that man, and I was like, I mean, I get it, but like someone needs to say something negative about him so I can rebuttal it. So like, can someone please have a negative opinion of him so I can be like, tell me why?
Listen, you meet him, you're wary, and then you're in love. That's how it goes. Like,
the man understands. He's perfect. So, but that's pretty much what we have going, and I'm very excited to just kind of dive into it. There's nothing to complain about. Well, there's a lot to complain about with your man, isn't there, Miss Brett? So,
okay.
Anyways, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and end this. Thank you guys for coming. I also, by the way, should say that the arc of Visions of that one, the From Blood and Ash one, arrived at my door today, so that will also be a book that I'll be reading.
I'm so behind on those.
Yeah, I was like, I gotta read this. Okay, got it. So
I know you're gonna have to let us know if it's like you know how Soul of Ash and Blood was like supposed to be just like, and then it had some story points in it. So you're gonna have to let us know if it's actually just a compendium.
Kate, are you over From Blood and Ash?
I am a book behind. I did like rereads, and then I was gonna read the most recent prequel one, but I didn't. I did not like Cass's POV. I have a very strong review on that one. So,
because I was just gonna say, you were, when I first met you, you were Little Miss from Blood and Ash. Like that was your thing, you know. So I wanted to know your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time making guides. Yeah. And then she was coming out with a compendium, and I'm like, well, what am I doing? Like, why would I do this? So,
I mean, yeah, I liked those first couple books, but I am also behind.
Yeah,
I didn't read War of Two Queens. I didn't read POV. And I did read the spin-off series, the first book, and I liked it, but it was, you know, the same story. So,
yeah.
I'm very curious. I From Blood and Ash is a series I'm very much willing to stick it out for, because I see what the general vision is, and at this point I really want to see where it goes. It definitely has evolved in my mind over the years as I've read it, but at this point, like, I'm in it and nothing has really stopped me. Plated Prisoner is a different issue for me. That one I think is a full DNF. So that will be someone just fill me in on what happened situation.
Did you read the most recent one?
No, and I don't think I will.
You didn't?
Now that I know what happened, absolutely not. That's like
I can send you my review, because I'm probably going to finish it, but my review was not good.
This is the way I look at it: is finish it and tell me what happens. I will continue to host buddy reads for the realm for it, because y'all love it, and at the end of the day, that's what matters to me more than my opinion of it. So, you know, we will continue to make spaces for you guys to enjoy a book, but I will not be talking about it. So it's just not my cup of tea, and that's all. There's no bad thing about it, but yeah. But I guess at this point, we are for anyone wondering, we are already in discussions about where the next house will be and when it will happen. The stipulation is my mods have to come, because they moaned and groaned so many times about this one that they are coming to the next house. So we can figure out how we're going to do that. And yeah, I'm excited.
Multiple houses.
Yeah.
It might be 2 houses, which is fine with me.
Next door.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or like a solid duplex with a lot of rooms.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. I mean, there's so many different ways we can do it, and like we will find some really cool houses. So, I'm excited to see where we go. But unfortunately, it'll probably be in the US again. International is too hard to figure out.
I don't even want to. I was gonna say I don't even want to go about figuring out when that's going to end up on my Kindle if we're overseas. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah, unfortunately. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm excited. I think the only other thing I want to end this with saying is, besides the Mass Madness, we are discussing like doing either bi-monthly or quarterly SJM lives in the realm. So there's multiple, so I don't want anyone to think like we're just shutting it off completely until the next Actar book. There is discussions about like keeping it alive somehow, but it just won't be as frequent as you have seen in the last 4 years. And that is called balance.
I'll also do theories and stuff over on my TikTok. Like there will still be that content from me.
Yeah. So there will be some ways around it. But anyways, thank you ladies for joining. I appreciate it. I'll play the music again. I appreciate you guys hanging out and all that fun stuff, and we'll see you later. Bye guys.